We're back for lesson 11 today. So once again, you are going to need your handy dandy developing a nation packet. And we will be back in the Oregon Trail story, paragraphs 6 through 10. So it's on page 24 and 25. And you will need your packet, this one, Unit 7 reading. Turn to the last page in here, lesson 11. And we're talking about texts and images today. And we're talking about how an author uses reasons and evidence to support particular points in a text. So we're going to analyze the images in this and how they support what is written in the paragraphs. So we did this before with the railroad one, where we looked at those images and how they helped us to better visualize or to expand our knowledge on what was happening in the text. Same thing with this. We're going to use the images provided on pages 24 and 25, I think. Yep. To better understand what Narcissa Whitman was going through when she was going on the Oregon Trail. So, let's get started. So we're using those reasons and evidence to support a point in the text, and the reasons and evidence we're using are images, which is kind of fun. So we're going to reread paragraphs 6 through 10 and look at the images on pages 24 and 25. How do the images support and or expand on Narcissa Whitman's description of her experience on the trail? So first we're going to go to paragraph 6 through 10 and find what's stated in the text, and then we are going to go and look at those images and see how they help us. So I kind of said this backwards, but I'm going to look at my images first. So a picture of Narcissa Whitman. Excuse me. I have a picture of the wagon trains as it went across the prairie, and a picture of like the bison and the landscape there, and a modern day picture of a bison in the rolling prairie. So now I'm looking at 6 through 10 and seeing how they tie those images. In 1836, Whitman and her husband Marcus led a small expedition from New York to Oregon to found a mission. I'm going to skim and see if there's anything that talks about these images. So it says landscape, which is very different from New York where she had lived. So the landscape is what the land looks like. So I'm going to keep reading and see if it describes the landscape. The face of the country yesterday afternoon today was been rolling sand bluffs. We already found so far. Mostly barren, quite unlike what our eyes have seen. No timber. So in this picture now, I can see what she's talking about. It's rolling bluffs. There's barren. There's no timber. If I look on these, same thing. Rolling bluffs, barren, no timber in all of these images. So maybe that's going to be the first thing I'm going to write down. So what is stated in the text? It's stated rolling sand bluffs. Mostly barren. And then later on, I can use ellipse because later on it said no timber. So remember, timber is logs and wood. And then the images. How do the images help me? Well, this photo on the bottom of page 24 shows hills with nothing but scrub brush, right? So I'm going to say the photo on page 24 shows hills with, that's my abbreviation for with, nothing but scrub brush, that little brush that seems like it can grow anywhere. And then if I look on page 25, and that's an illustration. It's a painting. The illustration on page 25 also shows timberless, so there's no trees on it, prairie. And then how does this help my understanding? It helps me visualize the text. And it kind of shows me how dreary and tedious it must have been if this is all you saw constantly for miles and miles and miles. So it helps me understand how dreary and tedious. So tedious is just over and over the same thing. That part of the journey must have been. Just a connection I can make is people complain when they have to drive through North Dakota and it's just prairie, prairie, and prairie, and how that drive seems to take forever while you're in a car going 60 miles an hour. These guys were traveling with oxen and horses and going maybe 5 to 10 miles an hour on a good day. So that must have been very difficult. For me, it would be anyway. So now if I'm going to keep reading, let's see what other things I can pull in here. If you need to pause this and copy, go ahead. So on the trail, travelers quickly recognized the importance of the American bison that roamed the plains. The men would hunt the buffalo for meat. So that's what this illustration's depicting, right? And the hunter brought us buffalo meat yesterday for the first time. So we're using 6 to 10. So these two parts of the paragraph definitely coincide with these illustrations, right? So I'm going to say what stayed in the text. Men would hunt for buffalo meat. And that also is talking about the hunter bringing us buffalo meat for the first time. Well, that seems like it'd be the hunter. So I'm going to say the hunter brought us buffalo meat for the first time. I left out yesterday. Oops. So now what you're going to do on your own is how does this picture, this illustration here, this hunter and the bison, help you better understand these statements? If they're hunting for buffalo and the hunter brought us buffalo meat yesterday, how does that help you? And there's not really a right or wrong answer, but what does this do for your comprehension? So you're going to finish that, and that's all you need to do for today's work. And then there's some IXLs for you to finish up on. Once again, just like yesterday, still working on first 2 AAs and FF2. Yep, that's about it. Keep plugging along. If you do want something to do and you finished your reading and you have this done, you always can go to recommended IXLs and do those too. That'd be helpful for you. Or you could read a book or a magazine or an article or anything else that you'd like to read, because that's the one thing you should be doing every day, reading. You have time to read, take it outside. I don't know what the weather's going to be like today because I'm recording this before. If it's sunny, go sit on your deck and read, or under a tree or something. Okay. Poodles.